Since the introduction of sky replacements, there's been an ongoing debate as to whether or not it's photography. Is it expressing your artistic flair, or is it cheating? Replacing skies in photographs has been around for a while, but up until recently, before programs such as Luminar and now Photoshop, it was pretty tricky, and you did have to know a thing or two about layer masks, blending, and stacking different shots together. Basically, you'd have to know some kind of compositing skills to get a sky replacement to look believable. But as AI develops and computers become a little bit more clever with every iteration, it's harder and harder to see what is real and what is not. And it's becoming easier to replace the sky with a click of a button. And in some of the programs, you have a whole host of skies to choose from. But is this really photography? Altering a photo has been coined as photoshopping for a long time now. Ansel Adams used to dodge and burn his images like crazy in the darkroom, bringing the sky out in his photographs even though it wasn't as moody as he portrayed in his shots in real life. Frank Hurley made composite slides from images he took in World War I and World War II, and he said he could never get the feel of a battle in one shot, especially with the technology he had. So he would photograph single explosions, single planes, soldiers charging, and then blend them all together when making a print. Now these aren't real, but he would say it would convey the emotion he felt whilst on the battlefield. So this isn't really a technology thing, or a recent development either. Photographs have been composited and manipulated for as long as they've been taken, but is this really photography? I think it's a personal thing. If you like creating art, you can use paints, pencils, and create something from nothing. So why not take pieces of photographs and merge them together to create art? After all, that is basically what a sky replacement is. I think the one thing that annoys a lot of people, and especially photographers and especially old school photographers, is when the creator of the photograph is trying to dupe others into believing it's one thing when it's actually something else. Now, if you've looked into this at all, you may have come across a photographer called Peter Lick. He definitely knows how to use a camera, he knows how to take a photograph, but sometimes he does create some pretty ludicrous composites. And up until recently, he has tried to pass them off as single images. And if you've read his overly dramatic descriptions, you would be forgiven for missing the single sentence saying that he took multiple shots, as they are very gushy with emotional speak all around this one tiny little sentence. And it's normally towards the end as well. Check this one out from Ibiza. It was a balmy summer evening in beautiful Ibiza. This was the night of nights. It was all about to happen. I knew a full moon was rising this night and wanted to find a remote location to capture it, away from the lights and action in town. Perched on the cliff's edge, I set up my tripod and framed the shot. I could see a thunderstorm approaching on the horizon. The anticipation was unreal. By the way, Peter is Australian, just in case you were wondering about the dodgy accent. Knowing right on nightfall the moon was going to rise through the storm, my heart raced. The moment of glory happened in just seconds. The moon burst through the storm clouds shadowed by lightning, adding an unsurpassed beauty to the scene. At that moment, a lone sailboat crossed my path, highlighted in the ocean moonlight. I reacted on an instant, blazing off frame by frame. By the way, I did I needed to use 3 different lenses with multiple exposures, but that's beside the point. I needed that to capture this epic scene that unfolded before me. This was literally the perfect storm. The moon, the lightning, and the unexpected addition of a single sailboat coming into port. It was absolutely surreal. Seconds later, the boat vanished, the moon rose out of the frame, and I was left with the sound of thunder echoing across the bay. I was blown away. I felt like I was in a dream. I pushed myself and my equipment to the limit and was rewarded with a once-in-a-lifetime display of Mother Nature I have never witnessed before. Now, I'm just having a bit of fun here, and fair play to Peter Lick. If he's making the money he has on his prints on his website, good on him for making a living from this. But it isn't really photography, is it? Or is it art? There are people out there trying to get some amazing landscape shots and are putting tons of work into it. And most of the time, they'll get mediocre results. And then you get the likes of Peter Lick, who photographs a moon high in the sky, then a wispy cloudscape, and then a nice rocky outcrop. blends them all together, often putting the moon in front of the clouds, then comes up with a dramatic backstory as if he took it in one go, and then sells them for thousands. But then where do you draw the line? Should the photo be taken in one shot? Should you be able to push and pull the settings to bring out the highlights and the shadows, or make one part of the frame stand out a little bit more than the rest? Was it okay for Ansel Adams to dodge and burn in the darkroom to make his photos look super moody? And is it okay for Peter Lik to produce these composite images? How about blending shots? After all, this does bring the dynamic range closer to that of the eye to make it look like what you saw when you were there in person. And then how about astrophotography? An exposure of 30 seconds will bring out more colors in the Milky Way than you could ever see with the naked eye. And then if you stack and track your photos, you can bring it out even more so. So is that any different to replacing the sky? Now for me, it's all about capturing the moment. Some shots I'll have to keep going back for, and I have done this with a few different locations, up to 10 times to get the shot that I wanted. But I could, in theory, just take a few shots of the landscape, drop in a sky to make it look a bit better, and while I'm at it, I might as well do a lick and drop the moon in front of a storm cloud. Well, probably never do that, but I could push it really far if I wanted to. Now the way I look at this is then I'd be robbing myself of that adventure to capture that photo, or that one-off moment where the sky was on fire, lit up with those oranges, reds and yellows that it often does, which then reflected off all of the land, and I got that beautiful photograph. Might not be perfect, but I would have been there and I would have got it, and every time I saw that photo, it would have taken me back to that time. Thinking about it, I'm okay with blending shots to get a better dynamic range so I get a representation of what I actually saw, or a long exposure of a night sky, or maybe a few stacked shots to reduce the noise, but that is where I draw the line for myself and my photography. This is why I think sky replacements are a little bit too fake, especially when the sky is from stock that you never saw or never took yourself. They change what the scene looked like, and when done badly, you can really notice them. I think ultimately it's up to you as a photographer as to where you draw your line. Now, even though Peter Lik's description was overly gushy and a bit over the top, it is an amazing feeling to get a photo that is perfect in every way, and it seldom happens. And no matter how perfect you think it is when you take it, you will spot imperfections that you didn't notice when you were taking it. But sometimes those imperfections make it better. I have a shot of Trecime in the Dolomites on my wall. The stars are slightly elongated and the sky isn't perfect. I could have replaced it with a night sky with the Milky Way towering above the rocky outcrops, but then that would take away from the photo I took at the time. As an imperfect image, it takes me back to the level I was at, what kit I was using, and what I was feeling at that time, as well as the hike I had ahead of me. And this is what makes photography so unique. It captures a lot more than just light. It captures what we were feeling at the time and a snapshot of who we were, and probably all of those gushy feelings Peter Lik was talking about back in Ibiza. Now, what do you think? Are you okay with sky replacements, or do you despise them? Let me know in the comments below. It'll be great to hear your thoughts and to keep this discussion going. Now, to build on your photography, composition is one thing that you really need to work on, and it does take time. So click on this video next. I go into lots of different things about composition in it, and hopefully you can take something from it. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe for weekly tutorials in everything photography. I'll see you next time.